Welcome to this edition of At the Mic. I'm your host, Keith Malinak, welcoming you back again for another episode. I think we're going to spend the rest of this month reminding people that if they can help donate to Dave and Faith, just a lovely couple from American Pride Roasters Coffee, the chief sponsor, the original sponsor of this podcast. They lost everything in a tornado earlier this month. If you are able to help, please do. You could head to atthemicshow.com, click on the blog section there at the top of the page, and there is a link there where you can go to donate if you are able to do so. Thank you for considering.
You're listening to At the Mic with Keith, an independent podcast production.
Dalal Bruchmann is such a unique person with her vast travels, her musical career, and her unique plans for the future. She and I recently sat down, had a fun chat, covers almost every subject in the universe and beyond. Oh, you'll see. Let's get things started with today's conversation. It's Dalal Bruchmann on At the Mic. Now, you've come a long way here. You have made a road trip from California.
Yes.
Like literally just for this, right?
Yes.
Now from here you're
just
gonna
for this.
You're gonna go to Austin.
Yes.
And then do you circle back to California?
Yes, pretty much. Mm-hmm.
You're traveling with your mom.
Yes.
And y'all have been able to spend some time seeing this beautiful country. Like New Mexico, I guess, was a standout stop.
Yes.
I know for a fact you went to White Sands. Is that not the most insanely beautiful place on earth?
It's magnificent. And it's so hidden. You just drive down this road, and then suddenly you take a left, and you're on another planet, basically. It's just absolutely insane.
Because when you enter the park,
Yeah.
it's just normal. Like, it's just normal terrain, New Mexico desert stuff, and then, boom.
Yeah.
You are surrounded by, effectively, a Star Wars backdrop.
100%. And the streets are just white. It's insane. It must be amazing. Unfortunately, we couldn't stay until sundown, but it must be amazing under the stars.
I wasn't there at sundown either. My family and I, we didn't want to leave that park.
I know.
The kids would climb up on the hills there and just dig. And just, there was a group of bachelors hanging out there. I think they were taking photos for like the wedding or something like that. I don't know.
I believe that.
Yeah, it was... It's truly a hidden gem in the state of New Mexico.
It's a total natural wonder, and everyone should see it. It was absolutely amazing. We were blown away.
It's one of those places you try to explain to people, and you just end saying, just go. Just go see it for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you for driving all this way. You're here in Glenn Beck's studio where I work. He's my boss here at the Blaze TV and radio studios. And we were looking at some of the movie memorabilia that he has out there. Mm-hmm. He's got the head of Stay Puft, the Marshmallow Man from Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
He's got the red ruby slippers from Wizard of Oz. Mm-hmm. And then you mentioned, while we were talking about movie stuff, you got to talk to us about your obsession with Peter Falk in Colombo. And you told me something. Tell the story about, are you going to go after one of the cars from the show?
Well, I love restoration and restoring old things and old houses and old antique things and memorabilia. And I love Colombo. I think he's the greatest TV detective to ever grace the screen. And I visited his grave in Westwood Memorial.
You are really into Peter Falk. Is it the show or the actor or both?
I think it's everything. It's just the way the detective, he's so smart, the way he goes about it. I love this play of, he's so humble and so intelligent, and he just looks like, your run-of-the-mill walking down the street, and then you have these arrogant criminals who always think they outsmart. It's just a wonderful, wonderful take on the world a little bit.
I should have saved this conversation to the end of our talk about Peter Falk, just so I could, when I had one question left, I could just finish up by saying, just one more question. Okay.
It's
anyway,
so great.
Yeah,
it's so great. But yeah, I was looking, because my mom and I, we were watching it, and I was like, I wonder what happened to his coat or the car. So we started digging into it, and apparently, and I'm not sure, there's various information out there that they had different Peugeots for the show, and and we were saying it would be great to buy one and just really restore it, because it's such a big piece of history, in a way, of screen history. So we found that apparently, unfortunately, one of the cars is rotting away in a storage unit. So I've been trying to find a way to contact the owners. I've written to like a bunch of people to see, because they're saying that it's basically breaking apart, but there's always a way, there's always a way to like.
So are the other several of them on display somewhere?
I think there's one on the Universal Studios lot.
Okay.
At least that's what it said there. And one of them, I don't know. I have found no information on it. So if
this
anybody
is kind of
out there
a
has
life
information, yes.
A bucket list item.
Yeah, a little bit, because, once I set my mind on something, it's really hard. So I find myself Googling it, and or DuckDuckGoing, depending on.
You got to keep us keep us updated on this.
I will.
That would be
This
so cool.
Yeah, because I think it was such a brilliant show. It's just so sad to see some of the, parts not being remembered in the right way and valued in the right way. So
what would be awesome is if you do find it and the lot has no idea what they have on their hands, and they let it go for $50. Scrap. Okay, good luck. Keep us updated on that.
Thank you so much. That would be amazing. I'll take this one over there.
That one's falling apart, ma'am. You sure you want that? I want it. So, as we've been walking around the studio, you've been speaking at times in a different language with your mom.
Yes.
What language are we speaking there?
It is German, but we speak an Austrian dialect because we're from Austria.
See?
And it sounds a little bit different.
I thought it was unique. I was like, I think it's sure. I don't know exactly. Yeah. So, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I spent most of my childhood in the west of Austria, sort of in the mountain regions, skiing. And then I spent quite a substantial amount also in the Middle East and in Northern Africa.
How does that happen? Like, how do you end up everywhere?
Because that's my father's side. So where my name is from, Dalal. Yeah.
Yeah, and by
Arabic.
the way, Arabic. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Dalal Bruchmann. So,
Yes.
you've got a Middle Eastern first name.
Yes.
And, but the last name, what's the origin
is
of that?
Austrian Jewish, basically. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and by the way, we haven't established this yet, and we'll get into what you do for a living. The way I was introduced to you is because one of the things people know about me is that I am a very high-strung, high-stress individual. So the way I can take myself down off of those intense stretches is I get to listen to your piano playing, which is such a therapy session. You seriously, you play the most beautiful music. So if people aren't familiar, they need to check out, like, Spotify is how I think it, honestly, I don't know. I think it may have been a suggestion or something. I really don't remember the first time. I'm just telling folks, if you need to relax, Dalal Bruchmann piano playing.
Oh, you're too generous with your words. Thank you so much.
Okay.
But I love classical music, and we're actually working on a new album now. So there's more piano music coming your way.
Do we
Keith.
have a release date yet?
Well, actually, we have a new album out right now that you can listen to.
Yeah.
More piano music coming your way.
Okay, so explain a couple things for us. I want to know how you got into music and turning that into a career, and explain to us also what has prompted all of these moves. You've lived on, my gosh, I think, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 4 different continents, technically. So, like, you got the Europe, I don't know where in the Middle East.
Africa. Yeah, Northern Africa. Egypt, Northern Africa.
I know that, yeah. And where in the Middle East were you?
Sort of between Jordan, then parts of Syria, then...
So, I mean, technically Asia,
like
maybe?
vein. Yeah.
And now you're obviously in North America. My gosh, I mean, what's left for you? Are you ever going to move to Australia or South America and cover it all?
I don't know about Australia.
Right. Yeah, things have gone a little bit bonkers.
But I do
there.
have wonderful Australian friends and wonderful friends in New Zealand, and they're all fighting hard for freedom right now, and they're wonderful people.
The way the world has changed in the last 2 years is truly unreal. It's unthinkable, especially in places like Australia. Okay, so now that I've spoken for the last 5 minutes after asking you a couple questions, tell us how these moves came to be and how you got into music.
Yes. So I was born in Austria and then grew up in the very west of Austria in the mountains. I went to little ski kindergarten.
Wait, what is ski kindergarten?
It's the cutest thing. It's where you go to kindergarten, but you are on the mountain and you ski for most of the time.
Hold on. Are you learning your ABCs and your how to ski and stuff?
Yeah, it's just basically kindergarten, but on skis in the wintertime, and in the summer you hike a lot. But yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I thought I had a great kindergarten class when we had the letter people.
Fantastic. What are they doing?
The letter people, like you would come in on a Monday morning, and there would be an inflatable about, I don't know, 2 feet high, 3 feet high character that my awesome kindergarten teacher, Miss Duncan, would have blown up and had in the middle of the room. And so that week we're going to learn about, the letter C, and Mr. C is there.
Oh, that's like QI.
What's QI?
Oh, I love this show. It's called Quite Interesting. It's a sort of a quiz show from Britain, but they have like, this time is the letter A. A as in animals.
Okay. So, all right. We didn't have ski slopes in Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, that's where you're from?
Yeah, that's where I'm from. But I'm fascinated by this ski kindergarten.
Yes.
Did you actually learn your ABCs and your 1, 2, 3?
Yeah. You learn a lot. It's not like elementary school ski, but it's very much like kindergarten. You learn with games, and it's very social. We were about 20 kids or 18 kids. And
how long were you in the ski classes?
You mean at daily?
Yeah, because you just said, well, it's not like elementary ski school.
Yeah, no. But the ski kindergarten, it was almost like a day kindergarten. And my mom would pick me up at night when she was done with university or done with her work, and then I'd go home.
You became a good skier?
I haven't skied in a while, but I would say that I could get myself down the slope quite well.
Okay. Wow.
But I love skiing. It's absolutely amazing sport.
So how long were you in Austria before?
Well, I was in Austria basically all my life. I've been in the United States for about 10 years.
Okay.
In the meantime, we traveled a lot. So I was very, very fortunate because my mom just took me everywhere.
Nice.
Like she would even pick me up at school and say like, okay, you have a long weekend. Let's just jump in. We'll go into Italy. And she would just drive us down there and we would sleep in the car.
That's cool.
And just drive to every kind of museum, like little towns and eat at like little pubs and bars and restaurants. And
wow.
It was absolutely
education
amazing.
in of itself, just driving with mom on the weekends.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's amazing because now I look back and I feel like, oh, what an amazing, fortunate life I have lived.
Right.
To be taken, by my mom because she worked a lot and she studied at different places and it must have not been easy for her. And she's still like, my mom has an amazing curiosity for life and she just shared that with me.
It's a good trait to have.
And it's amazing. Yeah.
Okay, so you grew up in Austria.
Uh-huh.
Then, you've lived here in the States for about a decade now, right? Mm-hmm. When did I misunderstand? When did you live in these other places, like Northern Africa?
Well, it was always either in the summertime or 2 months here, 2 months there, weeks here, weeks there. Any chance we got, we spent somewhere else too.
So as a world traveler, what is your favorite place that you've ever seen besides White Sands, New Mexico?
That's correct. That was pretty amazing. I think the pyramids are just incredible to see. There's a piece of my heart in Egypt for sure because it's just I love Egyptology and the history way back.
Right.
And the things we got from it, from astronomy to mathematics to all of these amazing things. So that was incredible. I really loved, when I traveled to England, I recorded the piano album there. Loved England. Wished I could go to one of the places I've always wanted to visit, which is Tintagel in Cornwall. I still have not made it.
What is that?
Oh, it's one of my...
I'm not as cultured as you by a long shot. No, so you're going to have to educate me on these places.
No, but this is great because one of my favorite stories is King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table.
Right.
And according to legend, Tintagel was the old castle where the story started. Okay. And it's in Cornwall, and there's still some ruins you can visit. I mean, there's next to nothing we know about it because there was only one book really. But it's one of my dreams because I think it's one of the most important stories ever to be told. because I think the idea is first of all, it was the idea of the reluctant king, it's that chosen individual that doesn't even want to be at the place where they have to be at to bring peace to the world. And then there's this, obviously, the story of Merlin, the story that moves paganism to Christianity. Then there is the story of the Knights of the Round Table, where it's basically this beautiful way of like we're all sitting on an equal table together, and everyone brings something to it for it to make it work. And then obviously there's this leads us to Parsifal, the Grail, the Crusades. It's sort of the beginning of just so much history.
So in the Great Debate, was King Arthur real or not? You definitely come down on the side of a real person, real story.
Well, I think he's just similar to Robin Hood. He's he's probably a fusion of various different kings and times, and also it was the big movement from the pagan world into Christianity. So I think there was a lot of myths and legends that wanted to explain the shift. But I think it's so beautiful. I think it's actually one of the three, because I was thinking about this, Keith. I was thinking, what are the three stories that as we go through history, those that have themes that are just so relevant to humanity? You see them constantly repeated in every decade and every century. So I was thinking about, and that's definitely one of the three stories for me, is the King Arthur legend. So what is it for you? Give me three stories.
No,
but it's so interesting. You get the most interesting answers from people.
So you're asking me, the question is, what are three stories from history that I think are so important?
Three stories of humanity that have, it could be anything, it could be a fairy tale, that have some sort of theme in there that is just so important for humanity. You see it constantly repeated. I can tell you the three of mine.
Yeah, that's what I want to hear. I mean,
okay.
I'm not being interviewed.
No, but this is a good chat. I want to hear about you too. I think it's so fascinating.
I'd have to think about it. Okay, so what are those three stories?
So my first story is the story of Jesus. Because obviously it's Jesus, and just the whole story of Jesus I find just absolutely beautiful and wonderful and fascinating, and just so important for everyone to have as a companion story for their life, honestly. Right. Then there's King Arthur, and then the third one is Alice in Wonderland.
Wow, that's a curveball there at the end.
Yeah.
What is it about Alice in Wonderland, then, that we need to take to heart?
I think it's the idea of the reality, dreams, and perspectives, and our place in different universes almost.
Oh my gosh, this risks getting really deep real fast.
No, but I think it's such a fascinating story, and we constantly see it repeated about what is real and what is not, and how do we behave with things that are that seem, it's almost a little bit, you could see it in Gulliver's Travels. You can see Alice in Wonderland in things like Harry Potter again. Like, these are constantly, you're falling into this rabbit hole of new things, of different worlds. Where do you fit in, and how do you behave as things shift? And how do you shift your own perspectives with it? So I think it's just so fascinating.
Okay, all right.
But I ask other people, and it's really interesting what you get. I asked my mom, and for her, one of the most important stories was Romeo and Juliet, which is a very, very interesting answer. And then I asked another friend of mine, and he said Lord of the Rings 1, 2, and 3.
Next question.
I'd
have to get back to you on that.
Yes.
I got to think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's tough. What was your earliest memory growing up?
See, I was actually thinking about that a couple of days ago, and I'm not sure. I remember when my mom threw me into a pool so I would learn how to swim.
Did it work? Did you learn real quick, like?
Real quick.
Nice job, Mom. Way to make it happen.
No, she was in there too. It was all fine.
So were you able to did anyone have to jump in and rescue you?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I was really young. I feel like the younger you are, the better, because you just
learn.
You just do it.
Just learn. Yeah, it kind of compels you to.
Yeah. And I think it's something natural, because we come from water. And another early memory.
Wait, we come from water?
Yeah, I mean, that's where the baby swims, if you think about it.
I don't know. I thought we were going to get into a deep discussion about, like, the history of the world or something.
Water.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
And then I have just lots of memories of playing in the garden. We had a very, very big garden that I loved. And obviously there's lots of memories of snow and sand.
And skiing.
Yeah. But I wouldn't know necessarily how old I was always in these memories.
I gotcha.
So sorry about that.
That's fine. So you've gone to school for a lot of stuff. I'm not even going to try to list all this stuff. Tell us your education here.
Well, I went to music school first. Well, ski kindergarten.
That's right. Let's not forget ski kindergarten.
I loved ski kindergarten.
I'm fascinated by that.
I have the best memories of ski kindergarten.
How many kids would do that?
There was, we all lived in the mountains. There were quite a lot of kids.
Wow, that's cool. All
right. And then I went to elementary school, grammar school, and then I went to SAE College or SAE Institute, and I started with graphic design and web design.
And that's over in Austria.
That was in Vienna. Yes.
Okay.
And then I did my bachelor's in film and animation at the same school between Berlin, Munich, and Vienna.
Wow, that sounds intense, huh?
It was a great school. Really, really enjoyed it.
And so you could make Pixar-type movies or something if you had to? Or?
Well, it was a little bit more of a general education in that. Okay. And then if you wanted to go more into certain parts of animation, whether that's rigging or animating or designing, then there would have been additional time spent in that for sure.
Okay. But you didn't stop there. You also have learned English literature and history that obviously you're a big fan of.
Yes. I absolutely love it. It's my obsession. Like I can dig through books and books and books. Currently reading this really fascinating book on the costume history and stuff.
The cost of history?
No, costume history.
Oh, costume history.
Like nice dresses.
So you could probably look at a photograph and know exactly when that was taken.
Most likely, simply because photographs haven't been around for that long.
Okay, I didn't even think of that. I'm sorry. Okay, a painting. How about that? A painting. Thank you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I kind of... Boy,
you walked into that one. No,
yeah, I sure did.
No.
So how did you turn your musical talent into like a job, you know? How did you determine I want to focus on music? Or are you doing multiple things right now as a career that I'm just not familiar with outside of your music?
Well, music is definitely my main career. I do have a graphic design company. But it's hard sometimes to look back and think like when did I turn this into a career? But I've just always done it. And then at one point you have to make money with it. So I love a lot of things. Like I could imagine myself doing a lot of things and loving it.
Just not enough hours in the day, huh? So, I don't, definitely. Uh-oh. Do I have you stumped now?
Yeah, because I'm thinking about stuff. But it's, I just love it. I get immense joy from it. And I like the detailed and precise work of music, and especially soundtrack work. And because I love visuals and colors. And it's just a great way to combine my interest in like visual arts and fine arts and then in music. And when I was little, I wanted to be first an astronaut.
Oh, yeah.
So my mom bought me a book to read about how to become an astronaut. And then I realized that the food really isn't that great up there.
Wait a minute. So it's the prepackaged food that dissuaded you from a career as an astronaut?
I am a Taurus. I need my food and I need it to look good.
Wait, you need it to look good?
Yep. Visual total part of the food.
Wait a minute.
I want it to look nice.
That's a trait of a Taurus?
I think we like nice things. So it's just there's an appreciation to the food on how you serve it and how it looks and the colors of it. I think we eat very visually too.
That's a Taurus thing.
I think that the Taurus pays attention to that more than maybe other signs that I have seen. But
I can just say,
what about you?
Speaking for a Taurus, I just want to eat. Like I get bugged that I have to slow down in my day to eat. I'm not sitting there saying, well, this isn't pretty enough.
Food is the best thing. And then especially when it gets served and then, you know, it looks nice.
No, I eat to survive.
No.
Sorry.
You gotta love the food.
Have I thrown a curveball into your analysis
I have to look at your chart, Keith.
of tori? Is that the plural for
Tori? Yeah.
Tauruses?
I don't know.
Okay.
Taurians? I don't know.
Taurians. We'll go with that. So,
yes.
yeah.
Wait, what are they? Oh, yes. And then I wanted to be a nun.
Okay.
Simply because I love churches and the architecture of churches. And I always thought I could just like be there and like.
I don't know that that's the first qualification for being a nun. I just being in a church.
Wait. But then I thought like I could live in a church and then just make music and be like an organist nun. And then I have like a choir, and it'd be a little bit like Sister Act, but not really.
I was going to say, I hear a TV show or a movie developing here.
No, it's actually more medieval. I like the Gregorian chorals, and I really love, I'm really in love with like medieval music.
Would you want to live in a big, old,
that's the
damp, church?
Well, not all the time. That's the point. And then I found out about like the Catholic, the celibate, and it was little, and then I was like, "Aw, that's sad." So. But it was really interesting.
That's cool.
And then I wanted to be an astronomer. It's like, I want to see, like, I just want to look at the stars all day long and just write down one. And then I figured out that my mom bought me a book about astronomy, and then I figured out it's literally just mathematics.
Oh, man. No, thank you.
That was a bummer for me. I think I cried for a little bit.
Oh, no. It's just mathematics.
It's just mathematics. And then I realized, but music is really like, it just combines everything. There's like, a little bit of math and a little bit of divinity and a little bit of the stars and a little bit of vibrations and yeah, just all the good, nice stuff. I was like, I want to do that.
Huh.
So
here you are.
And so I learned the violin.
Wait, you learned the violin?
Yeah, I learned the violin first, and then I learned piano.
How old were you?
I was 4.
Wow. So you have literally been playing all your life instruments.
Yes.
Is the piano then your favorite?
It's both of it. I love strings. I'm obsessed with strings. I was just talking to one of the violinists I work with a lot, and she was like, I think you like the violin more than I do. I was like, wow. But I love it. I love the sound of it. I love the viola. I know lots of people joke about the viola. I just don't understand it. It's like an inside musician.
I was about to say, is there a cachet of
you play viola
jokes that I'm not familiar with?
There's like the orchestra jokes are the best in the world. It's a really fun place to work.
You got something off the top of your head for us? Okay, all right.
No.
But you also sing.
I do. Yes, I love the singing, and I've always sung, and it's always brought me much joy. And now I can combine everything because I do a lot of soundtracks, and I also work with my composing partner. Her name is Mesa Pullman, and she's an amazing singer and artist, and comes from a little bit more from the folk side of things and Americana side of things. If we fit really well together, and it's been such a joy working together and coming from different sides and combining things and strings and banjos and organs and voices and yeah.
So would you say that your love of history and architectural history is equal to your love of music and performing, or it's just a hobby? Could you ever see yourself a career doing something in the realm of history?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think if I get into it, I would love it just as much. Mm-hmm. I think the question is often like, I do this now and I love what I do. It brings me immense joy. But I think if I would do the other thing, I would also love it and it would bring me immense joy, So, of course, when I do it, maybe I'll miss doing more music. Like I don't know,
Right.
But I would love, like, one of my dreams is to buy like an old house and just restore it.
Oh my goodness.
That is one of my absolute dreams. That and the car from Colombo.
Well, yeah, that would have to be parked there
Yeah, it would
on
be
the property
parked on the
somewhere on
property.
display.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's just so fascinating. Like you look through history and you dig through the types of architecture and how people, how much work and craftsmanship it was to make certain things. And, you just let it sit there and don't do anything with it. And it's just.
Maybe you should be a museum curator or something.
I love museums. Yeah, I'd love to be a curator. I think museums are so fascinating.
And maybe it's just because I don't stop at enough of them. But it seems like when you're driving, especially in rural America, and you see like, oh, there's a museum this way. I'm sorry, I've got a schedule to keep. I'm not stopping to see this little nothing museum or whatever. Yeah. I wonder how many people actually stop and enjoy those, because it just feels like that's got to be the loneliest job in the world, sitting at these places. I
remember going to like a small art museum and sort of going up to Northern California, and it was a tiny little art museum, and I started talking with the curator, and he brought me into the archives. That's like
cool.
Totally cool. I could see him like digging around and being a little bit of a detective. I don't think, obviously,
Why isn't this stuff out on display for everybody to enjoy?
Right. Yeah, I love archives because I always feel like there's so much more hidden that they don't show you, and that's all in the archives. Like the Vatican archives.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, that would be...
I wonder what's there.
I wonder what's there. You're driving across the country effectively with your mom.
Mm-hmm.
The trip going well?
Oh, it's going wonderfully.
Good. Okay.
Yeah. So many great things. And you know what? Incredibly nice people, because you meet a lot of travelers too. Like, oh, where are you from? Oh, I come from. This is the great thing about the U.S. anyway, because you have it's such a vast, wonderful, huge, and diverse country. And you'll find people, I'm from South Carolina, and then I lived in Roswell for a while, and now I'm here in Dallas. Or it's just amazing. And then you hear where people come from and what their story is and why they love it. I love travelers. I think it's like really interesting to meet people from all over the world. And
well, maybe you need a podcast where you're interviewing people about their life.
Keith, I'm literally the last person that doesn't have a podcast yet.
Yeah. Oh, no. You're right.
I think I talk to my friends. They're like, what started this pod? I'm like, okay, great.
Yeah.
I just don't think, you have to be a great interviewer.
Yeah, I thought I was the last one to start a podcast, but it turns out...
No, that's me.
You're still out there. But
I'm still out here.
I mentioned your mom. You look to her as the person who's had the biggest impact on your life. How so? She's sitting right here. So yeah, you guys are partners in crime, huh?
Yes, definitely. For sure.
You like that? You like that?
I love it. Yeah. Well, I think my mom's always been a very happy person. It doesn't matter what the hardships she had to go through or the hard work that she did. She's always been very loving of life and very positive. I'm myself a little bit more pragmatic in life. Not negative, but just pragmatic.
I like that. There's a fine line, especially in 2022.
For sure. But she's also been, I've never met anyone in my life so in tune with themselves. And I think that's like a rare thing to see. There's a true connectivity. And she says something and she's 100% sure of it. That is also rare to see.
No kidding.
Everybody
doubts everything.
There's so many
themselves.
people that doubt either their, and she always told me, she's like, you make fast decision and you stick to it, because even if it's the wrong one, you're just as fast changing it. And I think that was a really valuable thing to hear. Yeah.
Okay. Your mom she speaks 2 languages.
Mm-hmm.
You speak 2 languages.
Mm-hmm.
So considering that you grew up in Austria, how did you end up speaking English? Was it just through her or how? Like, I don't know her background at all,
Yeah, we always traveled much. My mom speaks Italian very well, so we spent a lot of time in Italy.
Is there a language you don't speak?
I mean, there's so many languages, man. There are so many beautiful languages.
I wonder how many languages you think there are in the world. Let's just take a guess.
I feel like spoken languages, or because there's some.
I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna Google that. How many spoken languages?
I think about 200.
I think there's more.
She says 200.
And then there's also dialects, and I would say there's almost maybe 400.
All right, spoken in the world today, there are roughly 6,500 languages.
That's incredible to think about.
That is
Oh man, just can
fascinating.
you cut off my 400 guess?
Yeah. No, I'm leaving it in there. Because I would have been along the lines with her, a couple hundred. Yeah, so you were actually the closest.
No, far away.
You're a big fan of books?
Ah,
My family and I do this too, where we just go to an old bookstore and just stay there.
yeah,
for
that's
hours,
what I do.
you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And you got to
just-
leave with something too.
Oh, 100%. That's
You always do. I don't think
love-
that's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, I love old books, man.
But there's something about it, a bookstore that, and you see it when you sit down somewhere and you just open the book. You see people like they're very calm when they walk into a bookstore. They're looking for something specific and they're in their own world. And it seems like the rest of the world is a little bit outside. It's a very beautiful place to be.
yeah, I just go to the history section and see
Well,
what's
yeah.
new.
Yeah, and you find really like it's also like when you look at people, oh, what section are they going to? Like are they going into medical section? Like
what are you
cooking?
stalking people?
Totally. No, not at all. But it is interesting because like sometimes I go to the astronomy section or the architecture section and there's no one there. But then you walk
yeah.
into like the games and video games or
Yeah.
whatever. There's like all these people.
Well,
No, but
welcome to our society.
no. It's, I think there's people, you have people that are interested in all kinds of things.
Yeah, but if you throw a rock in the air, you're much more likely to have it land on someone who's into video games and stuff like that as
Yeah.
opposed to architecture.
Yeah, I mean, you find me in the graphic novel section too, because I think those are fascinating.
Okay.
But it's funny, like where you find the people and what they read.
Wow, you are stalking people in the bookstore.
No,
I can tell.
no,
You
not
have
really.
oh no. Oh no. You are obviously into classical music.
Yes.
I don't know what the difference between classical and neoclassical is.
Well, the neoclassical is mainly the new classical music, the little bit more minimalist kind of approach to classical music. Classical music has a specific kind of period that it
Okay.
refers to.
So it's basically modern people performing classical music.
Yes,
No?
so it's like if I would play like Tchaikovsky or a Greek, then that would be considered I'm doing classical music. But if I play, for example, Max Richter or Ludovico Einaudi, that's already sort of a neoclassical realm and more minimalist. And
I'm just it's over my head.
oh no,
Oh, this,
it's just my work.
Pop music, electronica, soundtracks, folk music, alternate. You know what? You could have just said,
Yeah, what don't
I
I think there's so much really great. I had like this period of where I was just listening to like Japanese music or Native American music. There's I have a lot of Chinese friends too, and they have great instruments that I, had no idea of, and yeah, it's lots of fascinating stuff.
Last book you read was 1984. That's a wise choice. How's that feeling today, huh? Aren't you glad you brushed up on that?
Oh yeah, I've read it before, and I was like, like that could ever happen, like you think about it, and then you're like,
We're here.
Yeah, we're here, and it's just astounding to me. Like, it's all these parallels that we're living through, and there's people that don't see them, and it's almost word by word to be read in the book.
Terrifying.
It's really frightening. Yeah, yeah. I think you have to be very careful where you step at this point.
Yeah. No kidding. Let's see here.
But it's all good because we're in Texas.
Yeah, but you're headed back to California. You know that, right? There is an end of the trip
Oh,
coming.
you had to throw that in, yeah.
But you're headed to Austin from here. So
Yes.
so you can ease yourself back into the California mindset.
Oh, that is so funny. I cannot wait to see Austin. There's so much stigma.
Good luck.
I've only heard good things.
Uh-huh.
I just want to say something nice about California here.
Okay, say something nice about California.
It is a really beautiful state.
It is.
It's a beautiful state with there's many hardworking, good people in this state.
That are doing their best to get out, honestly.
At this point,
Uh-huh.
90% of my friends have left the state.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
You see yourself.
Leaving. I see, unfortunately, leaving
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I
Where
feel
would
like
you
I'm-
head to?
Austin. I'm
Oh.
kidding. I'm totally kidding. But we'll see. That's why we're also checking out different states, because this is the beauty about the states, is like you can just live somewhere else because all the states have a different constitution, different laws, different mentalities.
50
oftentimes
experiments.
You have 50 experiments, and this is wonderful, and California can keep the people that love how things are going in California can stay there and love it. Unfortunately, I see myself a little bit forced out, which is absolutely devastating to me too, because it takes a while to build your friendships, especially when you're not from a country. It's effort and time that because I didn't know anyone from college. I didn't go to college here. I didn't go to university. I didn't go to elementary school.
Yeah.
I don't have any family here. So there's every friendship that I have, every relationship, every work I had to build for myself. And then it's obviously a decision.
Where does Mom live?
She travels back and forth between Austria and the United States, but she's here. She's a medical scientist, and it's been really strange for us too. But California is such an amazing state, and
California is like the beautiful woman that's just absolutely insanely crazy.
Yeah, I feel like it's just, you have so much opportunity in California, and just the vegetation, the soil, the wildlife.
And it's got everything as far as geography.
Everything.
With
all
the
you have to
snowy
do
mountains.
is let the people work.
Right.
That's all you have to do.
You've got the ski slopes. You've got the awesome beaches.
Yeah.
You've got the natural beauty.
Yeah.
But the government, man.
Yeah, and I think it's also in, certain areas, like not all areas of Los Angeles, but a lot of the places where you find people that are, which I always think is like not a good thing to develop, is a little bit of a wrong arrogance. Living in such a great state and having the opportunities they have, and then you become quite complacent and a little bit far from reality sometimes.
And before you know it, you wake up and, oh my gosh, what has happened?
Before you know it, you behave like a lunatic. Like that's what is happening, unfortunately, in a lot of places. Is there's no more connection to just normalcy or common sense. Like just calm down for a second there and just enjoy the beauty where you live, and just work. Just do your thing,
To your earlier point about being so interested in astronomy.
Yes.
What is Sky Guide? What is that app?
It's the best app. It's basically an app where you could see the night sky and shows you all the constellations and their stories. And
oh, really? So this is better than Google Sky.
I don't know.
Oh,
Google
wait,
Sky.
you must have an iPhone then or something?
I do have an iPhone.
I wonder if this is the Apple equivalent to what I've got on my phone, which is, Sky Map. And so as you can see, I just opened the app, and I'm sitting here recording this interview with you, and you see, okay, so now I'm looking east, right? You see how it says east?
Yes.
Now this is the horizon right here.
I think it's, if I may say so,
here
it's
we go.
a little bit more elaborate.
Okay, because
Yeah.
you see, there's the sun, and there's Mars and Mercury. I might be able to do more layers to it.
Yeah.
But I don't use it too much unless I'm just like standing outside at night, like, wonder what planet that is out there.
Yeah.
But is that kind of what you've?
It's sort of like that. It has a little bit more. It's a little bit more mystical. I think the Sky Guide, where it's like it shows more of the stars and how the Milky Ways and the Andromedas and the.
Oh, there we go. I just didn't have a good.
Yeah, this feels like more of a map.
Yeah.
And the other thing is more like a journey through space.
Okay.
And it also has really nice like sound effects and stuff.
Oh, wow.
And it also tells you about all the great things that are happening this month and next month. I feel like I'm like promoting this app. I do not work for this app, but I think it's just really fascinating.
Sky Guide is not a sponsor.
This podcast.
Mm-hmm. But if they want to be, please reach out.
They should contact me and Keith, please.
Let's see here. 5 possessions. If you can only keep them. Childhood photo album. That's a good one. A survival bag. That's an excellent, especially in today's world. A good pillow. How do you find a good pillow? Is there a better solution than to just go to Walmart and lay your head on the shelf on the pillow and say, "Yep, that's the one"? Is there a better solution to that?
Yeah, I mean, there's like just like with beds, you can just get all kinds of amazing pillows made or created, or with different fillings, I guess. But I feel like a good pillow changes everything, because I feel like if your neck and your...
That sets the tone for the day ahead.
Sets the tone for the day ahead. If you rest your head on a good pillow
I love this.
for a little while.
A good pair of shoes.
Yeah, those are important.
And a bottle of zinc.
Always
practical, Dalal.
important.
Very
Well, I
practical.
feel like that's like a question, like, 5 things you would take. For what purpose, though? So I've like,
I see.
good pillow, because that you
Yeah.
need in terrible survival situations and in just normal situations.
I've got to ask you about this. Your favorite comfort food is mashed potatoes with tomato sauce.
Yes, if my grandma makes it.
Okay, so is it just, instead of gravy, you're dumping tomato sauce on it?
Yes,
I've never had this.
It is homemade tomato sauce from our tomatoes in the garden.
You wouldn't just take a can of it off the shelf and pour it over? Okay.
No. It has this grandma's touch. And she makes the mashed potatoes, and they're beautiful. She puts them on the plate, and then she comes with the homemade tomato sauce, and it just tastes just absolutely fantastic. And you pour a little bit on it, and this is it.
Kind of want to try it now.
It's really
You're selling
fantastic.
me on it.
Amazing.
Okay, all right. Let's see here. We've kind of covered this to a degree. If you could go back in history, who would you like to meet? I've got to change this question because so many people go with Jesus, which you did, obviously.
Yes.
Beyond the Lord and Savior, you've got Nefertiti. What are you going to ask her about her eye? What's up with her eye? Didn't she lose an eye or something?
She did?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Oh.
I just think that she was a really incredible, interesting queen of Egypt at a very interesting point in time. So I guess I would I don't know, maybe I would just ask them, like, if you were a bird, what kind of bird would you be? I don't know, what's your favorite color? Who knows? Maybe it's just about having, like, maybe they would just talk. That's what I would love.
Just get them started.
They just give me something,
Leonardo da Vinci.
Yes. I mean, what a fascinating historical figure. I always feel like Leonardo da Vinci, I always think every time I see something of his, I'm like, oh my, he must have had a great sense of humor. So maybe I would ask him for a joke. I don't know.
See, and I think that about your next answer is Socrates.
Oh, yes.
Maybe it's because I watched Bill and Ted.
I've never seen that.
Oh, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure?
No.
Oh, you like history?
Yeah,
Well, then you'll like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I mean, it's just
I'll check that out.
It's practically a documentary.
Yeah, Socrates.
Michelangelo. Tchaikovsky. You obviously are fascinated with the medieval period because you'd like to talk to an ancestor of yours from that time.
Yes, I'd be very interested. The medieval period started interesting me at a couple years ago. I wasn't that interested in it before. I was more into Tudor history and and also then after the Victorian period, I feel like those were like the most interesting periods for me, for my that just I gravitated towards. And then also ancient Egypt. But then I like the medieval times suddenly opened up for me, and like medieval art and medieval music and just really dark times.
I was going to say, it just seems like a weird, it is fascinating.
Yeah.
That period is fascinating, but it's
fascinating.
Also scary.
There's some, absolutely, but it's really interesting what people do in times of brutality or in times of war, which was basically all of the medieval period were wars. And it goes, like, if you think about it, goes almost into like 13th, 14th century where, a lot of things changed. And then, but if you look into the practices of, even cosmetics and cloth making, the ideas that came about during that time were just really fascinating, which is because it's so interesting. If you take, for example, like antiquity, like ancient Greece or the ancient Romans, there was so much that was already developed, mathematics, logic, ethics, politics to a degree, right? Also in sculpture, like if you look at sculptures from ancient Greece or just anything, it's just so developed already. And suddenly comes the medieval period that said, we want none of that. Here's a 2D version of this really ugly king that we had called Edelhund. And Ethelbert. No, but I think it's fascinating. What were they thinking and how did they see the world? And
Yeah, no, we could do an entire podcast.
we could do an entire
series.
podcast about medieval, and then also, just everything.
I think it gets to Martin Luther and the 95 Theses.
Yes, absolutely.
And it really, that moment in time changes not only the trajectory
Yes.
of religion,
Yeah.
but I would argue that was the foundation of this country, the United States, 200 years later.
Yes.
I
You
think there's
find-
absolutely a common thread there as far as telling those in authority, hey, we got this.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was also a really interesting time because then you go into this is already almost Tudor history, because then you have Henry VIII, which can't really be considered medieval anymore, but he's sort of this figure in 1500 something, 1550, 1520, 1530,
Sure,
whatever. But he actually wrote against the Theses. He wrote a whole piece of document, and then you have the split from Henry VIII and the church and the emergence of the Anglican Church, and then you have the Catholics and the Protestants, and then you suddenly have Elizabeth I, and then you have the expansion of the empire, and like this goes on and on and on, and you find so many things that are relevant today that come from back then.
Right. History,
It's just fascinating.
Everything's
Yeah.
connected.
Yeah, everything is connected. And you can also see the more you understand about history, the more you start digging around in it, the more you start to see that most of the problems throughout history are not gender related. They're not race related. They're not, they're power related.
We just said it.
Yeah.
Jinx.
No, but they're power related because you have crazy queens, you have crazy kings. They were just as brutal. They were just as crazy. If you look at Elizabeth I and the sumptuary laws, or Bloody Mary, and then you have Henry VIII who decapitated his wife. It wasn't about he was a man and she was a woman. It was they were both in positions of power and
Right.
abused them to their own gain. But it was a very different time with very different behavior. So I just think it's like the more you dig around in history, the more you start loving where you're at.
Yes, that's true.
But also you start to understand that all throughout this time, there were people that cooperated. Right. And I think that's a really good point about humanity. Like
Gotta win the hearts and minds.
Even in the worst times of brutality, there were people that, laid down their lives and they cooperated and they worked it all out all throughout history. And I think that's a very good thing to keep in mind, because I feel like now people look back and try to make history to what they think their problems today are. And I think that that's just not working.
Let's
and it
have
makes
some-
people very unhappy. And it's also false. And I think it's not good to go there.
Let's have some perspective.
Yes, absolutely. But there, it's like you read these texts and you dig through these texts of, medieval times or Victorian times or Tudor times or World War II times. And you see, oh, this is a really interesting thing. So I found this really cool service called Historic Mail.
Okay.
This podcast is not sponsored by this again, but I thought it was so great. So you can sign up for this service and they send you a historic letter, because I was always, people that write the history books, you have to get the perspective that the people who wrote the history books, it just might not be true. It might be
Right.
tainted, or
Yeah, they have a motivation
they
for
have a
writing
motivation and they have
history
the
the way they
agenda.
want. Yep.
And I had this great Latin professor who was very interested in history too, and I had great conversations with him, and he always said the one way to find out is you have to be a little bit of a detective. You take all of these stories that were written around the same time about the same incident, and then you see where they connect. Where are the things that connects them? What they all say is true. What they all feel like is this. And the best way to see it is with actual letters written by people to friends, to lovers,
Right.
And so I found this service called Historic Mail, and they send you historic letters from history. So every week you get this letter in the mail, and it's like George Washington, 1797,
That's cool.
And it's you see in the way of how their penmanship, the way what they were worried about, what they were thinking, how long it took them to do something. You know, they were I'm traveling from Massachusetts to South Carolina. It's taking me 2 weeks already, and I've been sick 17 times and almost died. And but here I am. We lost 3 wheels and 2 horses, and but I hope you're well, Mary. By the time you get this letter, I'm already there or dead or something happened.
Right.
You know, it's amazing. The times were so different, and people worked hard too.
They were
you know,
tougher than we are now.
tough people.
That's for sure.
But also, it's so interesting. You see, I've got this letter from Amelia Earhart right before she vanished, basically, and it's just so interesting to see her idea of what she wanted to do. You read letters from the Suffragette Movement, right? Mm-hmm. And I have my issues with a lot of the moments that happened in the Suffragette Movement, but there you could see, this was an important movement but for every suffragette, there was a suffragist, which like nobody ever talks about, right? So you have these letters, and then you suddenly see, oh, wow, these people, it wasn't just a women's movement. It was a movement for people that weren't drafted into the war, that wanted a piece of the vote because their service to the country mattered in other ways, right? You can see how
That's
people...
interesting, because I've always, I know that like Wyoming, I think the first territory, 1869.
Yes.
I never have correlated that with having anything to do with the Civil War. So I guess I got to go back even further, huh?
Yeah.
To find out the motivations and stuff. Huh?
Yeah. I mean, like you can go so far back, especially, if you take, for example, the women's movement. I mean, that goes French Revolution. Even before that, there were things like that. And I never considered myself a feminist. Mm-hmm. I still don't. But I think it's, I think all of these moments in time, they've had their importance, and it's good to look at them. Why did they want that? And it was the women's movement, especially during the suffragette movement in England, was the idea that only the people that were drafted into the war and served in the wars were the ones that could have a vote. Mm-hmm. So this is not only women. This also affected certain farmers, certain jobs where people could not be drafted into war, didn't have a vote. So it wasn't just women. But that's why I also said there were suffragists as well, men who were looking for, supporting the women's vote and thought it was important, or needed a vote for farmers or things like that. It was just so many little things. History is a lot more nuanced than just like,
sure,
men or women, this and this.
No, you're absolutely right.
So I think it's like, and especially it was different for Europe than America, because America, you had the abolitionists who were mainly interested in helping the vote for women. And that was, I think, around 1848 with the Declaration of Sentiments, which is just really fascinating to read. But yeah, they're just so, like, you dig and you dig and you dig and you find these letters and these people.
That's a really great way to... a great lens to look at history through is these just letters from individuals.
Yes, 100%. I think it's just so fascinating to read what people were worried about and what they want. And there's a great...
Yeah, we want to know if we got Wi-Fi. They want to know if they had clean water.
Yeah. Like, exactly. Like, so where's the army now? Like, how fast are they approaching?
Right.
But it's really interesting. And you can see that there's a lot of issues that come out again now. It's George Washington. I had this old letter from George Washington, and he wrote, being concerned about the French Revolution, and he talked to his friend who was in Paris at the time, and he sent this letter, and he's like, tell me about Paris, because I really want to know, because I'm reading all of these gazettes here, and they're all saying something different. So he couldn't trust the news, basically. And I think it's so funny because this is just hundreds of years later, you still have the same thing. And it was same in World War II. You could find letters from people to people saying, like, I don't know, I'm getting this different information, but what is actually happening? And it's propaganda, and they've been bought up, and this is corrupt, So you can see so much when you start reading people's letters or diary entries. This is why I think the Diary of Anne Frank was just so important for history, because to see this girl and how she perceived this. Yeah, I think, anyway, sorry. Like,
no, I love it. It's very interesting stuff. I will say, and they all deserve their own podcast to explore all of these.
Oh, man, yes. Letters from History would be a great podcast. Now we're going to look at.
You better reserve that right now. And you should host it. Letters from History. Oh, you got to get on this. I'm serious. You better write that down. I'll write it down for you.
Oh, Keith.
Okay.
You will be my first guest.
Oh, no. It's you just reading letters from history.
Yes.
You don't need guests.
But then you talk about it. That's the
I see.
the fun thing about, like,
Okay.
you read about it and you chat
Okay,
to
see,
people
you've
about
already got this figured out. That's going to be your hobby. Like piano playing, music. Okay, that can be your
Perfect.
career, but the podcast can be your outlet there. Now, I ask a question in the email, and I normally would just skip this, like if you didn't answer anything, but since it came with like an upside down smiley face emoji and the words "no comment" under the question "most embarrassing moment," is it literally no comment, or is it you just don't have anything, or should we just move on?
I think everyone has like I mean, I don't know if everyone, but I definitely have a few embarrassing moments.
But none you
Really.
want to share with us today?
Why would I do that?
Okay, fair enough.
Those are certain things that need to be buried
Yeah.
in
history.
In history.
And no letters written about them.
No letters written about it.
Okay.
Exactly. No one will ever know except me.
Okay, gotcha. So is there anything else? Have we covered pretty much everything, or is there anything you want to tell us about?
Have you thought about the 3 stories for yourself?
No, I've been so in tune with the conversation at hand. My guest sitting right here. I'm certainly not drifting off thinking about that stuff. Let's see here. Your Instagram is Dalal Music.
Yes.
DALAL Music.
Yes.
That's
me.
Same with Twitter. That's pretty easy to remember. Dalal Music.
Mm-hmm.
Now, explain to me the handle on TikTok.
Yeah.
Is Room 30A. I'm
I
not
know.
familiar with TikTok
This is so funny. Yeah, I am just familiarizing myself with it. I feel like there's a lot of it's a very interesting platform, I think. So
There's the word. Interesting. Interesting.
and I'm trying to familiarize myself with it, and
Okay. So we'll be looking for you over at Room 30A.
well, I thought it was interesting because it's, I'm also working on a comic book. I'm working on
What?
a soundtrack.
Well, thanks for tucking that in at the end here.
Yes.
What do you mean? Because I forgot you got the graphic design background.
Yeah.
What kind of comic thing are we talking about?
Well, it's.
Uh-oh.
Let's say it is a
Is
little
this
bit
something
secret. No.
you can tell
We're
us?
working on, my friend Rob. Well, I've been working on this for over 11 or 12 years now. I had this dream, and it's about the zodiacs. And it's basically astrology meets superheroes in a new age.
Wow, that's pretty deep.
Yes.
That's pretty deep.
It's so fun.
What is your faith background?
Well, I was raised Catholic. I'm a big believer, I would say.
So that's a fascinating combination then, because I thought as much, considering the fact that you were talking about possibly being a nun. You have, right? Okay, so
It
obviously...
sounds so weird when you mention it like that again.
I'm just repeating what you said.
If anybody tunes in now, like, they have to go back.
That's
'cause
right,
It
that's
sounds
right.
weird. Keith.
Right, okay, Christianity,
Yes.
Zodiac, they have always seemed to be in conflict with each other, but apparently
No,
not
I don't
with
think
you.
so at
Okay,
all. Not
explain.
for me. I feel like this is the same with the idea of science and God, which I think is all the same thing. Like everything is connected, and everything is. I wrote this little myth about where the things come from and the idea of the zodiacs, and there's a lot of God in all of that. To me, it's like completely the same thing.
Wow.
Like I see it all connected.
So how does it get that rap of being...
Well, I think people like to look at things through a keyhole because then it's easier to oversee and easier to explain. I do think that there is a historical component as well, because if you think about, for example, tarot cards or tarot reading, that was actually part of the church. So there is a...
Wow.
And then...
Not familiar.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of things that the church changed a lot of times and then moved into... I've had my issues with the Catholic Church, especially at this point in time as well. But I do think that there's beautiful, wondrous stories in Catholicism, and I think with every religion you find very, very interesting points. And I think that the biggest one is like how... It's not just why are we here, where are we going, but it's like how do we lead a happy life? And here are the things we can help you for you to lead a happy life. So, so part of that is like, just to which I think is so fascinating in the idea of the sins of our fathers, that, like there is a weight, the Atlas weight that we carry, that some people might say it's a karma, or it's, but so I think that there's so many things that are just so important that they gave us if we understand it in a correct way. Even prayer, which I love prayer. I think it's such a beautiful form of meditation and exercise, that when you come into a time where you have hardship in your life, or where you maybe are lost at crossroads, that is the point where you meditate and you calm down. I think it's a beautiful way. And, India has this in yoga. They, like so many religions, did it in different ways, but it's always the idea of like, how do you lead a happy, meaningful life? And I think that is so fascinating. And I loved growing up with my grandma, always used to pray with me every night. And I went to church to work in church for a little while when I was a teenager. And I thought that it's so sad that so many people don't understand I had a lot of issues with the masses and like what they were saying sometimes. And then now I'm like, oh, like I understand certain things now, but they still, anyway, I can go into this, but I think that
That's another podcast episode for you, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. But I think it's fascinating, and especially the Bible, such an amazing document. You can find relevancy to all times in your life with it. Like at any point in my life, I could go to the Bible and look into something and feel like, oh. And I also love Greek mythology, which is another way of how they used to explain those kinds of things. And then obviously philosophy, which I think is which I think was the best way to actually explain religion, science, mathematics, was through the lens of philosophy, through the lens of wonder. Because I think if you put that at the very top, then all of the other things are making more sense, and you have the framework of ethics has more structure. Because now I see scientists that have completely gone beyond all good and evil, and you see this religion of scientism now coming out, which is really, really dangerous. And I feel like if we would just bring back this philosophy and put it at the forefront of things, then all of these other things would settle better. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I have my thoughts on that.
I think we have established during the course of this conversation that you have many avenues of which to tackle in your new podcast. I'm giving you something else to do.
Keith really wants me to do podcasts.
That's right. Letters from history.
Yes, I think that's actually a funny one. There could be on Valentine's Day. There could be a love letter from history.
See, you've got this figured out.
Like something romantic.
Yep. Hang on a second. Well, I've got you here. Let's just I'm just checking here. You could buy lettersfromhistory.com for $99.99, but let's see, lettersfromhistory.net for $15. Yeah, let's see, letters from. There's something out there. You can find it.
Yeah, I definitely look into that.
A couple more places here that people can find you. Dalal-music.com.
Yes.
Dalal-music.com.
That's a me.
And who's Mesa Pullman? You've got a website.
Yes, that's my composing partner, Mesa. And we have a website called www.musicbymesaanddalal.com.
Okay, and Mesa is spelled M-A-E-S-A.
Yes.
So Mesa.
She's also a phenomenal singer and has an album out. So if anybody wants to check that out.
Okay. Did we need to touch on the comic book again, or are we good? We should just look for it, huh?
Yeah, you should just
What's
look
it going
for
to be? Is it going to be? Can people find it at your website when
Not
the
yet.
time comes?
Yes.
Okay, it'll be available there.
Yes, it will be like you will see the first couple of things available for the comic book.
Well, I can't wait.
It's really exciting.
And
it's been like a long time in the making, and it's very exciting.
Well, kudos to you for taking a dream that's over a decade old and following through with it. Yeah. You didn't let it get away from you forever.
Oh no.
That's awesome. Dalal Bruchmann, thanks so much for making time here on At the Mic. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Keith. It was such an amazing pleasure. I had so much fun.
Ditto. Thank you. It was such a treat talking with Dalal Bruchmann. I imagine we're going to be hearing a lot from her in the future, whether it's more great music, her upcoming comic book, perhaps a future podcast as well. Maybe she'll start a Colombo-themed museum at some point as well. Next week, I'm going to sit down with Dallas-Fort Worth television meteorologist Jesse Hawila. He and I discuss the joys of being a new dad, his career in TV weather, and I mention a little trick to help him with his predicting of the weather forecast. It's going to be some fun. I hope you'll join us then. And please tell your friends about the upcoming episode and the nearly 90 episodes now in the catalog for At the Mic. Be sure to check out the merchandise as well. It's over at atthemicshop.com. Well, until we meet again, please go be free, and thank you for listening.
This has been At the Mic with Keith, an independent podcast production. Head to atthemicshow.com for archived episodes, sponsor information, and ways to connect.